Ew.
All right. Hey, guys, and welcome to another episode of Coffee in CHIKAHAN. The Entrepreneurs is a Filipino food and cultural advocacy group based here in Melbourne, and we volunteer as skills in business, design, storytelling, community building, and hospitality to promote Filipino cuisine and culture. The purpose of Coffee in CHIKAHAN is really to build community through conversation, to connect, engage, and uplift. It's real talk with real people as we navigate together a life interrupted by this pandemic. So welcome again, and today we have our special guests, Erwan Heussaff and Magnaye, who are celebrated Filipino culture keepers and creative tastemakers in lockdown together in Melbourne. Hey guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us this wonderful, dreary day.
No worries.
Yeah, no, thank you again. We're obviously in unique circumstances. Everyone isn't usually in Melbourne, but has been here since March of this year. But so as we find ourselves going through lockdown 2.0 and just imagining that we were elsewhere, if we were meeting elsewhere outside of our 5K radius, where would that be and what would you be ordering?
I'd be on a mountain somewhere.
Oh,
Nice.
I feel like I wouldn't be in a city or a restaurant. I'd be hunting in a mountain somewhere, and then Ross could cook up whatever.
Nice. I love that idea.
And then you guys could be foraging, and then
Oh yeah. We tried that with mushrooms. We didn't do very well.
Oh yes, we did try that. I think 80% all poisonous mushrooms. So
Yes. Yeah.
do it with it would definitely be with portion, that's for sure. Do you people a mountainous region that you would want to sort of invite us to explore with you guys?
Well, I guess there's one of the prospects of why I was so excited to come to Victoria is because there's so many beautiful valleys and ranges and everything. Unfortunately, I haven't really been able to kind of see all that. But I was really excited for that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Maybe there's still some time. Fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. But Ross, where would we be outside of your 5K bubble?
I'd be in a bar. Nah.
Don't you have a bar at home though? Like, like a mobile bar.
I'm always thinking about the beach at the moment.
The beach.
Even before the lockdown, I haven't been to the beach for so long.
Why am I having a visual of you, Ruff, in a tankini or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot pink.
All right.
Hot pink. I was thinking fluoro yellow.
Oh God, no.
Nah, like fluoro green, like Borat.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. What beach though, Ross?
It's like I haven't been to the beach, and like in Australia, there's so many beautiful beaches that we sometimes forget.
Yeah. And what would you be ordering at the beach bar?
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips. Okay, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Very Aussie. Very Aussie.
Yeah, that's cool. But I guess, runs awry. That's definitely part of our mental sort of like health and well-being to actually imagine what could be after this lockdown is lifted. But, with both of you guys, you guys are so sort of used to being so busy. How have you guys been keeping your mental and physical state and well-being going?
Me personally, and Ross texts me all the time, and I kind of reply like, "Stop texting me," because I've never been busier, and it's terrible because you're stuck at home. Like the only thing I can do is work, and work begets work. So the more you work, the more work piles on, because especially with companies like ours, we're project based, so it's all about chasing projects. And so I have to balance what our companies are doing versus also just shooting things for social media and for YouTube. And previously I'd be able to shoot 6 to 10, depending on the recipes, 6 to 10 videos in one day. Now, since I'm doing everything alone, one video will take one day. And so when we're trying to do 3 videos a week in various platforms, and then add to that handling the production company back home and our meat distribution company back home, it piles on. So I end up working, I don't know, on and off, because obviously, I'm taking care of my family as well. But I end up working on and off from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. every day, including Sunday. Yeah.
Amazing. Like how are you tackling that with newfound fatherhood though? Because I know as newfound parenthood for us, it was tough. Like I think we definitely have that added advantage as well as disadvantage that you're pretty much in lockdown. You're not leaving to go to work, and the amalgamation, also the weaving of the family as well as the work life is definitely being blurred, and that obviously comes with its own challenges. How has that been with you guys in the same home and with your new?
Well, for me, it's been difficult because I mean I've talked to a lot of people and I've read a lot of books, and then people are kind of giving you tips on how to prepare your home for an at-home work setup. But then obviously everyone's environment is very different. So here, the only place that I have to work is the, where everyone kind of convenes to eat, and it's next to the kitchen and it's next to the TV. So there's no such thing as putting barriers to distractions. So what I realized, because a lot of people were saying, okay, what you do is you schedule it 3 hours, you just work and you ignore everything else. But if my kid's right there screaming, then I'll pick her up, right? So instead of trying to listen to all these work at home gurus, I just decided accept the whatever arises during the day, and then just figure out. And that's why I say on and off. I work from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then, you think Saturday, Sundays, all right, let's take it easy. But I've never been one to lie down on a couch and watch Netflix for 12 hours. And so I can watch, and I can't play PS4 either, Ross. So I can definitely binge a series, maybe 2-3 episodes. And then after a while I get restless. And that's usually when I'll walk outside. So we'll walk outside for an hour. I'll go work out for an hour, but then there's still 15 hours of the day to go. And so I end up sitting down my computer, and then I see my emails coming in, and I start doing that.
Well, you definitely sound like the male version of Fidesz amongst our partnership. He never lets up either, but it's just but she's also the most productive between all of us as well. So there's definitely the perks of is on.
Productive watching Netflix.
How about you?
How are you doing it, Ross?
Well, I mean, pre-COVID, I was supposed to go overseas, which we all know. And obviously it's a setback, but I think at the same time, it's a blessing for me as well. Because I think mentally and physically, I wasn't really well, because I've been working for since I was 17, 18, I moved out of home and straight work, for the last 12 years. So no real break. I'd go overseas on a holiday, but I'd still be cooking, or I'd still be collaborating with other chefs. So basically it's not really a real holiday. And then
hospitality is tough. How many hours would you work anyway?
Well, I was thinking about it the other day. It was because I had this interview maybe last month, and they were asking me when I was an apprentice, right? Man, no word. When I was starting, we used to do 90, 100-hour weeks. There was one week that I remember that I logged myself on. I worked 115 hours. Then I was in the pastry section, so I had to stay overnight at the restaurant to finish these pastry dishes.
Oh my gosh, really?
I can't even remember what it was. It was one of those recipes that you had to check it every 20 minutes in a steamer oven, and then if you stuff it up during the day,
then go again.
Stuff that for the day after, So I had to do it the night before. And it was hectic. So I had to stay at the restaurant.
Wow.
One of those my mistakes, just so. But if I had to turn back time, I'd still do it again, just because it's taught me how to be stronger, and obviously learn what I need to learn. But I would never. I don't know. If I was to give someone an advice about that, I would be nah, not do it.
Well, we just recently, I guess commemorated Are You OK Day, and obviously the hospitality sector is one of the hardest hit sectors coming out of the pandemic. Mental health awareness I think it's changing amongst the hospo group, because I think back in the past you just basically had to suck it up and bear it. That was just what it was like being in hospo. I think it's changed now that we're getting this time to reflect, and where it's not so much of a stigma amongst our hospo teams and friends.
Well, yeah, no, Are You OK is one of those things that I've supported, and I've done events with them. Maybe the last 4 years, like I've done dinners with them through IDs and stuff, like different chefs cooking for one night, raising awareness and stuff. Well, I know now as well that people are smarter, like more aware of the laws and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they're aware of their rights, and yeah, like it's just knowledge, I reckon.
Knowledge.
Absolutely. Be informed. Amazing. Well, thank you for that, and we hope that you continue to just reach out and speak to friends and family if you need to. It's okay not to be okay. I think that's one of the key messages that the campaign is trying to push forward. So tell us, moving on to the next question, tell us a bit more about your origin story, and how food and drinks have played a role in your journey of self-discovery. Erwan, maybe we start with you. Learning more about your history regarding your involvement as a pioneer in Manila's bar scene, which is really interesting. Not a lot of people may not know about that. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of see me as a kid that pretends to know how to cook on YouTube. But
we don't.
I can't cook, Ross. You know that I can't cook. I just eat what you make.
I said you can.
So I really just started in college and started taking a bunch of odd jobs when I was in college. I took up luxury brand management, and then I did some sub courses in hospital management. And we had 6 months of school and then 6 months of vacation. And so during those 6 months of vacation, I decided to kind of just work in different hotels around the world. So I went to Shanghai when Pudong was opening up. So I did the Intercontinental Hotel there, where I was a banquet supervisor, a dishwasher, an aircon engineer.
Aircon engineer, what's that?
Just fixing leaks, basically. They called me.
I love it.
They called me when there's a leak. And then, dishwashing, waiting tables, and then went back to school. And then the next year I went to Hanoi to work at the Sofitel Metropole there, where I ended up being the assistant to the F&B manager there. After that, I went to Greece. I took up conflict management. And then finally, right after college, my first job was operational manager in Far Eastern Siberia, Russia, where I handled different coffee shops, hotel bars, central kitchens that would make food for like mines and oil rigs. So we'd make about 2,000 to 3,000 meals a day. Wow. So yeah, during this whole time, I never was working in the kitchen, or I never was working at the bar, but I always naturally gravitated towards those places, and I ended up managing those places. Wow. How they call a kitchen manager, but without being a chef. I did that. So the costing, the menu planning with the chef. For the bar, I would take care again of the costing, talking to the bartenders, helping them R&D and stuff like that. So that was kind of my role, just to oversee and make sure everything was working. So yeah, after Siberia, they wanted to promote me to like a city manager in, almost a country manager in Africa and Nigeria. And then that's when I said, nope, I'm good.
Nigeria.
Yeah, they wanted me to go to Nigeria. So I went from the extreme cold of minus 30 degrees, Celsius winters for 2 years. We'd work 3 months straight and then get 1 month off and then go back to work for 3 months. And so I went back to the Philippines and started figuring things out. So I ended up working corporate again in the Philippines. And then I started getting approached by some of the larger restaurant and food and beverage groups in Manila. And so I was approached to do a bar. And then back then there was no bars in Manila. Well, there was a bar. It was called Line Pig, which was the pioneering cocktail bar, who was kind of like, when there was a renaissance, like a renewal of interest in bartending, from pina coladas with umbrellas and slushies at hotel bars to people all of a sudden getting back into old fashions and Manhattans because of people like David Wondrich, who was a historian, cocktail maker in Esquire in the US. And everyone's first array into it was the speakeasy, because it felt cool, it was hidden, it was 1920s, it was classy. And it was a great way to kind of introduce cocktails back to people who, for the longest time, men were like, oh, I'm not going to drink a cocktail out of a stem glass. And so the Blind Pig opened up with, and it was set up by the Milk and Honey Boys out of New York that they consulted for the Blind Pig. And yeah, so it was amazing. And then a year later, both me and David Ong opened our respective bars. So mine was Niner Ichinana, and David's was the Curator, which was literally a closet. And how we met was on the week before opening Niner, I went to the Curator, who had just opened, and it was a table and a curtain, and that was it. There was literally nothing. And David, being the OC he is, his bartender, because by then I'd already kind of made a name online. So his bartender texted David saying, "Oh, Erwan's here." And most people would ignore that, but David called the bartender and said, "Give me Erwan now."
Yeah.
And so we
the same
talked.
effect that Ross has when they say, "Oh, Ross is here."
So he talked, and he was so worried. He's like, "Are you okay? What do you want? What do you need?" I'm like, "Relax. I'm just having a really good, simple, well-made drink." And then I said, "Hey, I'm opening up Niner next week. Do you want to come by?" And then so he came by, and then that's how it started. And back then, all the bartenders that we had were bartending in Chili's and Fridays, so they had basic knowledge in terms of measurements and how how drinks are put together. But then we had to re-educate, relearn everything from scratch, all of us, including myself, in terms of how cocktails are made. And that was a lot of self-learning. So through books and stuff like that. And then since then, the bar scene in Manila is blown up. So from 3 cocktail bars, I think the pre-pandemic, there must have been at least 40 cocktail bars in Manila, and a lot of them just in Makati. And when I first opened Niner, I would still get blokes, sit at the bar and be like, "Do you want a cocktail?" I'd be like, "No, that's for girls. Give me a beer or a Johnny Walker Coke." And I'm like, "Johnny Walker Coke, questionable in terms of what you like." And so back then it was a stigma in terms of cocktails, and it took a couple of years for people to understand what they liked and understand how drinks are made. And that's why one of my favorite drinks to talk about and make till this day is a pina colada, because it's one of those drinks that has suffered so much in terms of marketing and how it's positioned and shown to people. But when taken seriously, it's a serious classic. And when made well, that thing will make you wear a mankini in hot pink on any beach, any day. Yeah.
I love it, man. When I used to work in Thailand, I used to drink that religiously.
It's so good. And especially in the Philippines, because we struggled for the longest time, and can we make a Manhattan because we don't get the right rye? When we started, we were bringing bottles of alcohol in suitcases because we could only get the big commercial brands at home. And so obviously some classics require something as simple as Angostura bitters was impossible for us to find.
Really?
So we really had to help each other out in terms of finding ingredients and all that. And if you look at now, there's so many boutique importers and everything. And I like to think that we had a small part in kind of igniting that. Because when we started, it was, whiskey was Jack Daniels and Johnny Walker, and that's it. There was no, you don't mix bourbon's for Coke, and that's it. It was very kind of how food is in the Philippines in terms of you go to a supermarket, you buy an adobo cut, and it's a specific ingredient for a specific dish. No way in hell are you going to use that cut for something else. So let's not call it shank. Let's not call it whatever. Let's call it an adobo cut. And so for the drinks, it was exactly the same. Vodka was a drink to be drunk with Sprite or with soda water, and that's it. Or in a Cosmo, God forbid. So yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's also testimonial to Filipinos historically holding on to what they've always known and always actually questioned a variation of that. And that also comes in the food journey, right? When you present a different way of sort of your interpretation of an adobo, but it doesn't hang on to the classic elements of it, or there's a reinterpretation of the classic elements, there's always a question mark is that really authentic? And
Yeah.
I guess it sort of begs the question of what's authentic these days when all of us have had our various experiences and so forth. But I guess that leads into your experience and your origin story, Ross, and how Lola Carroll, the person that always gets a shout out on your respective various virtual cooking segments, how she sort of played a role in you entering into the food world.
Well, she had a restaurant overseas called Carol's when my mum was young. So I've never got to see it. I just heard stories about it, that it was so popular. So in my head, it was always like, I wonder what it tasted like, blah, 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 blah. But then obviously growing up with that side of the family, because my grandma was a really good cook and my parents are really good cooks. So I've been very blessed to been able to enjoy really nice food since I was young, you know. But obviously when you're young, you can't appreciate some dishes. You know, when you're young, you don't want to eat lengua, for example. But that carried on to me as I've grown older and appreciated more of this stuff. So that side of my family is very into food, and my dad's side as well, because my mom's side is very like Spanish kind of vibe, Spanish dishes and stuff. But my dad's side, Ilocano, so more like traditional kind of Filipino food, you know. So both of those worlds together was perfect. Like growing up, it was like thinking about it now, like when you're young, you don't really appreciate it. But now I'm like trying to remember the stuff that what did my grandma cook, you know, and I'm trying to think about it. I'm like trying to recreate it, and I was like, I wish I ate more of that, you know.
Yeah.
So obviously she was, both my grandparents on both sides have been an inspiration to me. They're one of the reasons why I went to cooking school, because I wanted to pursue cooking. So I went to William Anglis to start cooking, because at the time, it's still now I think one of the best cooking schools, you know. While I was there, I was like, because I wanted to be really, really good and learn fast. So what I did was like, I emailed like all the best chefs in the city, but this was me like 12 years ago. And I was like, can I come in? I want to work for free. So I can't even remember now, like I've staged everywhere in Melbourne. I've worked at so many places for free, like once a week, twice a week, just to learn what they do. It's not even about the food. It's about like how they run the kitchens, how they manage the team, you know, how they manage the staff. Because all these restaurants I've been to, I never ever like asked for a recipe. Like it doesn't matter, these recipes, you know. What's more important is how like they're in the business, how they treat the staff, as I've said, and obviously the connections that you make out of it is what's important. So yeah, I went to cooking school and worked at different places, helped open a couple of restaurants in Melbourne as well. Initially, because I started doing pastry. I don't know if anyone knew. I started doing desserts for like, I think maybe the first 5 years of cooking. I really loved pastry. So I went to work everywhere for free. I worked at Birch and Purchase cake shop for a year there with Darren. That was one of the best experiences, because like everyone thinks it's all cute, you know, because it's cakes and like, nah, it's not that hectic. Nah, it's one of the hardest places I've ever worked in, because he's such a perfectionist.
Well, yeah, pastry has you can't sort of like, there's no tancha in pastry. You actually have to have precise measurements.
And Darren's like, because Darren's always in MasterChef at the moment, right? But before, when I used to work with him, he was already famous in hospitality, but not as famous, obviously, MasterChef. And man, everything was so precise, man. And he's old school English, you know?
Yeah.
Like you'll know about it.
Well, you share a very similar sort of origin story to John, where John Rivera starting in pastries as well.
Yeah.
Sounds like the discipline that you get from the pastry realm really carries forward when you get into the savoury side of the restaurant biz.
Well, the pastry is like, you need to have finesse, you know? You have to be patient, you need to have finesse, and you can't do shortcuts, you know? If you make a meringue, I remember like, we used to do these cloud meringues at BNP. So if you stuff it up so easy, and like 3 degrees out of temperature, it doesn't rise properly. So it was so hectic.
Yeah.
But yeah, like stuff like that.
But I do love that story of how, you know, your collaborations going around the world and actually making those connections has been part of your journey and your education, and continuous education at that as well.
Yeah.
I guess that's also one of the sort of underlying foundations of how your friendship came to be with Erwan, right? How, like when you went to do a collab over there at Loyal Eatery.
Yeah, first of all, I wanna say, like, I've had so many amazing opportunities to be invited to cook overseas, and not everyone gets to do that, you know. Like as you said, like, yeah, at Toya as well, I've got invited, and that's how I got to know Erwan. Singapore, like so many different restaurants that like invite me to come and cook. And what I've learned from all this stuff is like, obviously, enjoying the restaurant's company. It's not just about the food, as I've said before. It's about the connections that you make and the people that you meet. I think is one of the most important things. And obviously, like, you need to come there with this mindset of like, I'm not the best. Like, you need to be humble and just like, be prepared to learn, make mistakes as well as you go along.
So tell us how you slid into Erwan's DMs.
I messaged him.
Yeah, I was about to say, don't lie.
So I messaged him. I said, well, I can't remember the conversation. I just said, like, I think I said I'm coming over there or something like that. Cause yeah, something like that. I can't remember. I need to go back history. I don't have Instagram. It was Instagram DMs, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened to your Instagram? What happened to that?
Just taking a break for now. So I said I was gonna take a break, lockdown, but now it got extended. I was gonna bring it back, you know.
Also, did you guys know each other back before then, or was it just a chance meeting whilst you were in Manila for the
No, it was on Instagram. He said something, and then I think Jordy was probably didn't want to go out or something, and then so I was like, hey, I'm gonna go have tacos, and so we went to Bruce's taco shop in Paranaque, in La Chinesca, that had just reopened, I think. And then we took Alan from Wildflower with us as well. So we just had some San Miguel, and then had some tacos, and then I dropped off Ross at like the sketchiest hotel you can probably book.
Yeah, I remember. I'll tell you a funny story that before that.
So it was. So I don't know if anyone listening knows Makati. It was on the other side of the tracks. So even if you're not from Makati, you know that doesn't sound right.
It's like that crossover from Poblacion, right? If you
No, other side. Like next to Bangkal.
I'm never gonna let my dad. Because what happened was, like, my dad was like, oh, because he was going to the flight center. I was like, oh, I'll get you a really good deal, right? I'll book your hotel. I'm like, yeah, okay. I was busy working. I'm like, you sorted it out. I'm fine. Man, he booked me in the dodgiest area in Manila, man.
Oh, God.
It doesn't really matter because it's only for like a night or two. So I was just like, nah, it's fine. But man, I was just like, dude, I was like.
When I dropped him, I'm like, are you sure you want to be dropped here? I was like, I don't.
I rang him straight away. I'm like, dude, where did you book me, dude?
Oh my God, Ross. Yeah.
Like you can't walk anywhere from that place. You can't walk to anywhere. You can't walk to where anything's happening in Makati in terms of Legazpi, Salcedo. You're on the complete wrong side where there's nothing happening.
Have you redeemed yourself with a recent sort of trip to the Makati again?
No, I was meant to go in May, but it got cancelled because of COVID.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's something on your radar to actually sort of explore then when you go back next time.
Yeah, definitely. Like, because I haven't really explored Manila that well last time I was there, so I need to really explore it, like more restaurants, more bars, you know, because I didn't really get that much time. Because when I went, I cooked at Toyo, so I had to prep.
Yeah, you were there quick. It was really quick.
Yeah, I was only there for like 3 days, two nights or something.
Oh, wow. You do that a lot, right? When you do all your collabs, in and out, pretty much.
Yeah, in and out. Because normally, let's say if I get invited to Singapore, if the dinner's 2 nights, I go for like 4 or 5 days. Because of work as well, you can't be away too long.
Yeah. Go ahead, Fidesz. Oh.
We can't hear you.
Sounds Yep. Okay, so the next question here, you know, both of you guys are multi-hyphenated careers. You know, Ross, you're a chef, comedian, the life guru at times, and Erwan being a content creator, businessman. What identity do you think has been the hardest hit during Corona? And, you know, how are you sort of navigating that?
For us, our bars, definitely the hardest hit. absolutely nothing happening. Like there are some, like yesterday I bought a Negroni from the Black Pearl at the local wine shop here. And in Manila, you know, already cocktail culture is something that's quite niche. So imagine cocktail culture at home.
Yeah.
Very hard sell. So a few bars are doing it. Like David's very active with both Auto and Curator. And but I don't know the figures, but I can't imagine it being close to even 5% of what the regular revenue is. For us, for example, we still have Yes Please and part of the Palace in Manila. And that's completely stopped. So dried up. So we try to still, provide for the employees that are there and everything, but it's tough times for the hospitality industry in Manila. The food, because I see the flip side as well with Chingolo and Bolzico beef. Because we're a meat importation company, people are ordering slabs and steaks, which is great. So that we've been affected, but we managed to pivot and go full on distribution. And people still kind of like order cooked food and stuff, but definitely not as much as before. So we've really gone just full on in food distribution.
Yeah. Well, how do you see the road ahead for bar culture in our respective cities, being Manila and Melbourne? Because obviously the space density is going to raise a lot of challenges, right? With the experience that people sort of gravitate towards when they do go out to bar hopping and so forth. What do you think is going to be the norm then with that?
Yeah, with high volume cocktail bars, it's tough because it's all about how many people you can fit in square meters and then how quickly you can turn them over. So you're basically going to have to look at restructuring your whole cost center. So that's looking at rent, talking to landlords. It's looking at minimizing inventory and eventually minimizing staff to cope with how much revenue can you actually generate in one night. And so looking at all of that, and in the Philippines, unfortunately, we don't have kind of like the opportunity that most people have here of figuring out how to have outdoor areas. Because there's more space here on the street. I don't know when the last time you went to the Philippines, but it's literally building, tiny little sidewalk, and then street. And so it's impossible to have like nice outdoor areas there.
The government's looking into activating public spaces to, I guess, ignite hospitality. So I think that's a model that they're considering based on what New York has done. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, so Manila's tough. We know a couple of bars that have closed already. Some restaurants will close. I've been in the food industry in Manila for about 10 years now. I've opened 10 restaurants. I've closed 6 of them over the years, and that was when there was just regular foot traffic. And imagine back then, because of just a hyper competitive environment and a very fickle customer, it just wasn't sustainable because rent prices are so high in places with high foot traffic. Again, the Philippines isn't a place where you drive an hour to one restaurant on one street. You need to go to a place where there's multiple options around you, which is why places like Poblacion blew up, or people fight over spaces in malls, because there are other options, and it will create a natural flow of people walking. And that's why rent is so out of proportion in the Philippines. So I can only imagine me having to close places in a regular year, and then now, like I can't imagine people staying open for that much longer. Unless the landlords are cool and saying, hey, we'll drop everything by 80%.
How about Ross? How about you in terms of restaurants restaurants here in Melbourne? I mean, obviously we're all feeling it too. And, the Rice Paper Sister crew as well, having to close down one of their venues and now operating just 2 on takeaway. I think they've already delved into sort of the ingredients box, which a lot of restaurants are doing, and and the guys there are saying that's really kicked off really well. But what are your thoughts around that?
Well, I think the restaurant industry here is very persistent, and people don't give up, and they're very creative in different ways as well. Like as you said, like with the Rice Paper Scissors crew, they've been doing the takeaway home boxes, which what everyone's doing, like Sunda and Tipo. And places.
Everyone's doing, yeah.
Obviously, the main thing that everyone is really thinking about is when's the lockdown going to finish, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, not just for them, but for the staff that they have. Because I know a lot of places, for example, at Rice Paper, you can only pay the people that are on the keeper, you know? And it's hard to get someone who's casual to come in and pay for them to do a shift, right? Because there's not much work, obviously. But like places like people, like I've spoken with Andreas and stuff, like, because most of his stuff are Italian, right? So they're not, they're being sponsored and stuff. So some of them he's paying them casually, like out of the pocket, you know? Not just, which a lot of restaurants are doing. Well, yeah, I think just with what's happening now, just continue to support local businesses.
Yeah.
In different ways, and hoping that that all these restaurants would survive. Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a different Melbourne hospo scene, that's for sure. Like, it'll actually be interesting, like, Erwan, when you did your overnight segment on Melbourne, you gave a list of all the places to sort of check out, eatery-wise, or sort of coffee places and bars. It'll be really interesting to see how those places remain after this corona and is done.
Yeah,
which is a sad.
Definitely. That video, I was watching it the other day. It's so ironic.
Yeah.
Well, it's ironic today because the last part of that video, I said something like, it's apparently the most livable city in the world, but I'll never find out because I'll never live here. So it's just like a slap in the face. Well, you've been here now for 8 months.
It's a different world from then too, right? So it's not quite the same. What are some of the great places you've eaten, actually? Or I know you and Ross is taking you around, you know, familiarize yourself with the city when we weren't, pre-COVID. What have been your favorite sort of experiences in Melbourne?
Oh, there's so many. Bar Margot, Bar Liberty.
Bar Liberty, yeah.
Potentially my favorite one was Embla.
Oh yes.
When it first opened, I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
So good. The Japanese one, Mina.
Mina Mishima.
Yeah, I can never say it properly. That one.
Mishima, that one.
That one with a shiny end.
To your house? Did you eat it at the restaurant at that time?
At the restaurant.
Okay, because he has been coming to deliver his bento boxes to people, which is the most amazing.
Does he deliver it himself?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Sophia, so yeah.
That's
I think
amazing.
Sophia, right? Yeah.
You should check out the menu just to see, because you're definitely in his like radius, so you might end up having him deliver
I saw it on that website, Loca.
Providor.
Sorry.
Providor.
Yeah.
I think, okay. Yeah. Well, and then the staff's exciting as well. I mean, obviously, innovating the processes and whatever, and Providor with Shane and his crew are, I guess, leveraging off the acceleration of e-commerce and people ordering online. Do you see that as a way forward, as part of almost like when you talk about the business of food, that's going to be the norm?
I think, well, talking from the Philippine perspective, because you guys here, e-commerce has been something that's already in people's mind. Like the whole tap culture of credit card, like is the way to, like, I have a $5 Australian bill in my wallet since
March. My God, what?
And I haven't touched it because there's no way I can't use it.
Lucky dollar.
I don't know. I guess it is. I also have a 100 peso Filipino bill that's been here since March. I keep it just to remind me of home.
In case you need to get your here, bro.
Yeah. But yeah, I think from a Filipino perspective, the way things happen in the Philippines a lot of the times is when there's a huge need or demand for it. Unfortunately, it's the government reacts versus kind of preparing for things. And we've seen this with disaster relief when we had those massive typhoons a couple of years back. We weren't prepared for it. Now we kind of have at least we have the warnings in place and everything. But, people will ask, why didn't we have this 20 years ago? That's not, things happen. People in the Philippines, things happen only when people react to a certain situation. E-commerce, e-banking, all these things, we're a population of 110 million people, and they were saying There's close to 100 million cell phones going around. 50% of those are smartphones. You'd think a population of 50 million people with smartphones would be able to do a lot of online transactions. But a lot of things back then, if you want to buy something, I still have to physically go to a bank and deposit cash into someone's bank account, which is crazy when you think about it, because there's a general mistrust in institutions. It's this whole thing. It's a whole cultural thing. But since, and this is what shows you if the motivation is there, things happen really quickly. Since lockdown happened, all of a sudden, every bank came out with new apps, better online experiences for people. It's faster now to do payments. E-commerce is everywhere. You can buy your groceries now online and everything, and it's working well. And it just goes to show that the motivation needs to be there. I think if e-commerce was more robust in the Philippines, it could open so many opportunities for so many people to not just come to Manila and work in Manila, because you'd be able to do a lot outside of Manila, which I think is super key.
Well, Corona has definitely been the digital disruptor, but also the accelerator across many sectors. So it has been a blessing in disguise with us being in this lockdown mode. But I guess just touching on your experiences, Ross, how's dating in ISA, and has dating helped in that regard as well?
Would it be easier or harder, or, I mean, physically, no, right? But,
To be honest, it's like, it's a personal choice, like I've said to myself, like, I'm just going to chill out and not do anything, and, focus on myself.
Okay, that's good.
That's funny. That's a good thing.
I remember someone calling you the catfish king. I don't remember who it was, but someone said, Ross, he's the catfish king of Melbourne.
What does that mean? As in, you go fishing?
What photo do you present to all these people?
Man, I tell them I look better in person. What are you talking about?
I know you do.
That's why it's a positive catfish.
It's not a catfish, it's a snapper.
Snapper, sorry.
No, like I'm not dating because I've never had online dating before,
Never tried it.
Nah, it's not really my thing,
You're actually a real traditionalist. I think a romantic guy, right?
That's how you meet people.
You want to see it, like, you couldn't tell all that tattoos and stuff all over you. Like, you have this bad boy image, but you're a true romantic.
No,
excuse me, a bad boy with a Prada hat? I don't know. Let's scale it back a little bit. He's always in Vetements and off-white clothes. And
yeah, I know.
No, like
he's a good boy at heart, that's for sure. That's why we gravitate towards him. He came across as such a sort of stoic facade, but when you dig a little deeper, he's just like that little element towards him that we always want to sort of look out for it. Have the best come your way.
Yeah, exactly. Like you ladies have been an amazing support to me, except for my dating life, you've never hooked me up with anyone, so that's a minus, right?
We're past beyond having single friends. We're mothers. We don't have single friends anymore. All of our friends.
Like when I ask about someone, right? It's like you always go like, "Oh no, she's taken." I'm like,
no, we also just want to be out for you and just making sure the right person gets presented to you. But we definitely are always on lookout.
If you want to ask about dating, Sandra is the one to ask. She's number one.
Yes, that's for sure.
I agree.
I'm living my dating life through her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking to one person actually, but that's on the hush,
Okay. All right. Yeah, that person knows that they're special when they do listen to this segment. Erwan,
sorry, I was just going to say, really quick, Grace, I'm just really intrigued. Why do chefs have tattoos? Like, there's so many tattoos, like a lot of chefs that we've, seen. What does it represent, and what qualifies a tattoo being tattooed on your skin? Is it a moment? Is it I don't know. I'm really curious about it.
Are you asking me or Erwan?
You're the chef.
Both of you, Erwan, you've got some too.
To be honest, like, I've never thought about it. Like, because I got my first tattoo when I was 17.
Okay, which one? Oh, are you allowed to show us, or maybe not? Just
I don't even remember which one it is, but it's one of these ones here.
okay.
But it wasn't like because I was cooking, like I'll get a tattoo. It was just like a phase. It's just a phase.
Mm-hmm.
Like the phases, and then like you get one, and then you get another one.
Yeah.
But now I don't think about it anymore. Like it's not something like I want to get a tattoo like next week. It's nothing like that. It's just a moment. Like the last time that tattooed
Last
up.
one I saw was your last. Was that your last one?
Yeah. I was in LA. I was
Can you
hanging
show
out.
us? Can you show us on the screen?
That one there.
Which is the last yeah. That was that collab you did with.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like you're partying so much like for 3 days, and then the guys are
Anyway.
like, yeah, "Let's get a tattoo," and I'm like, "Yep, well, let's go."
So there's some that you regret or what?
Nah, it's not. I don't regret about it anymore. Like I don't even think about it. It's so normal to me. Like I don't notice that it's there.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's right.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it was like for me also. My first one was I think I was 16 or 17, so it was even before getting into this professionally. I think in terms of like sleeves and getting chef's knives and stuff like that, it did get trendy at one point, and people were doing it. I'm not sure if it started with chefs or it started with baristas or bartenders, but at one point, I don't know, it just became a mark of like a cool looking
Yeah.
hospital worker.
Chefs and bartenders are the same, man. They're both crazy. Let me just tell you.
Mm.
When it's partying, chefs and bartenders, man. Whew.
Yeah.
And it's probably linked to that because it is such an intense job. So you do a lot of partying, and people don't see it that way, but it is kind of seen as like a fringe. It's a subculture. When you work in restaurants, you're definitely part of a subculture.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are things that you understand that people don't necessarily do, and so I guess it's kind of like to mark that you're part of that tribe.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so social media has really definitely played a big role in each of you. Like it continues to be the way that we can keep our connections going with our barrio during lockdown 2.0 here in Melbourne. But specifically relates to the promotion and celebration of Filipino cuisine, culture and communities. Social media has played that role in driving our community forward, but there's also pros and cons of that, right? To be ever present on social media, the negativity comes along with the positivity. Erwan, specifically for you with such a large following, how do you combat like the cancel culture as well as, the crab mentality and the self-anointment of cultural bearers online? And how do you sort of like turn that into a positive moment?
I usually look at it from the perspective of out of all the negative comments you get a deluge of so many more positive comments. So what we see in terms of negativity for me is probably 0.1% of everything else that I see. But unfortunately, that 0.1% is sometimes louder than the 99%. A lot of people will call you out for something, but then people who like something won't necessarily congratulate you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
People will very rarely say, "Hey, good on you," but people will say, "Hey, you messed up," quite frequently. And so, throughout the years, I've been privy to my own little scandals online. And you just have to take it in strides. There's nothing you can do about it. Unfortunately, only sensationalized headlines and stories make it, and only people are only interested in that, and people see that and kind of make up their mind about you right away. And that's unfortunate, but that's just how it is. There was one person that was heavily criticizing me online for something I had not done. It's just something that someone wrote about me, and then she thought that I was the one claiming that, but I was just like, no, that person wrote, and it's their responsibility that they wrote a piece that they could have contacted me about to just get a confirmation or not from it. And so she started hating on me on Twitter, and that had like thousands, I'm talking about like tens of thousands of retweets and people talking about it, people canceling me before canceling was a thing. And then I DM'd her because we had a common friend. And I said, "Hey, do you want to meet for coffee in the fort? Just so we can talk things out." And so we met for coffee. We talked for about an hour and a half. After that 1 hour and a half, she apologized and she said, I didn't know you. I'm sorry that I jumped to conclusions. And a couple of days later, she tweeted, by the way, I just had coffee with Erwan and he's amazing. And what he does is actually trying to help, you know, the local scene and everything. And that got 3 retweets.
Wow.
Just to show you that positive messaging just doesn't make it to the news. And we see that with the news, like here, the news cycle is crazy. Like
Ridiculous.
It's a lot of negativity, and that's what sells, unfortunately. So there's nothing you can do about it. So I used to react to everything. Now I just observe and kind of be like, all right, if certain people want to think certain ways, I just try to think, why would they want to do that? Where do they come from? Maybe they're going through something.
Yeah, I think so.
I was going to say,
go ahead for this.
Do you choose what you respond to and what you observe? Because I think Grace and I sometimes go through this process of, is it worth responding to? Because it does take a lot of mental capacity to even think about what you're going to write and how you're going to respond. Do you do that? Or how does, and you know, how do you decide?
You can tell what intelligence looks like through a structure, phrase, or a way that someone puts ideas together. So when someone responds or says something intelligently, when you know there's some thought process behind that statement, I'll respond. Because in my mind, it's like, hey, you should be smarter than this. Than to be baited by something like this. If it's something really dumb, I'll just be like, all right, it's a 5-year-old in their mom's basement.
What did they ask you? What if they ask you to marry them?
I show them this. Sorry.
You get a lot of proposals, Erwan.
I got one of these.
Yeah.
How about you, Ross? Oh, sorry. Go, Grace. I was going to say.
With the cancel culture, it's obviously been a catalyst also for a movement in the food journalism scenario where, you know, people have been calling out, you know, why are you considered like the authority in the discussion about a culture that you're not a part of? So I think that's where we've seen the evolution of how social media has really helped to keep people accountable. That if you're going to sort of like present something that has obviously the dobong techniques included in that, if you don't write anything about the culture in which dobong techniques come from, then you will get somewhat called out on it, and you need to sort of like then obviously present that perspective that in the past there was a lot of whitewashing of those ethnic dishes, and I think that's been a positive coming out of where we find ourselves now on the social media side of things.
Yeah,
I think context is everything in life in general. So context is always have to be there. And if you're doing something to something, then at least if you say, hey, this is where we left off, this is where I'm basing myself off, and it's going to evolve from here. And then that's 100% fine, as long as people understand that context. But then I talk to everyone about this all the time. What I hate with today's culture is how people are so sure that there's some absolute truths out there. Whereas I always tell people, approach any problem or situation thinking you know nothing and thinking what you know could actually be questioned. And it's especially in the Philippines, where it's a place where, you know, if you're a doctor, people call you doctor. Whereas here, if you're a doctor, people will call you Max. If you're an attorney, they call you attorney, whatever. If you're an engineer, they call you engineer, whatever. If you're a chef, they'll call you chef, whatever. You don't have a first name, last name thing. You're always designated by what you are. And with that comes the attachment of whatever knowledge is attached to that title. So if you're a doctor, you're smarter than everyone else in the room. We all know we ask for second opinions all the time. We all know doctors who have botched operations. And so I always tell people it's so important, just because someone establishes themselves as a voice of authority, you can still question that authority. And with food, that's so important. Like if someone says, this is how sisig's made, you'd be like, okay, maybe. But then what if my grandma's been doing it differently for 250 years in Davao? Can I say that that's how sisig's made? Or can we just agree that there are different versions and let's move on? So I think social media plays a part in just how people nowadays have that short fuse of just reacting to things versus just trying to understand one another.
Yeah. Ross, have you found with your, I guess, you're championing your Filipino food more so than I think probably when we first met you, which is fantastic. Are you finding that you are being questioned in terms of how you cook things, and how do you respond to that? You know, you've done a series of video cooks with, oh my God, what's the? With Tomato.
Yeah.
But you're reaching out also, your audience is quite broad, right? Not beyond Filipino, but there's a lot of, I guess, non-Filipino audience that you have engaged with and you connect with, right?
Yeah, like for me, like starting to cook Filipino food was started at Rice Paper maybe 5 years ago. Just small bits of it, you know, like I don't know, like we'd do like an adobo, but like as a tapas dish instead of like the super traditional one.
Yeah.
We do bistec, but in a different way. And obviously, as we opened Sister, we kind of transferred the same idea of it. Make it more wine bar kind of food instead of super traditional, but keeping the flavors. Well, in my mind, like honestly, like it's never entered my mind to cook the food to please people, because in my mindset was like, I'm confident in the food that we do and the culture and the beautiful culture that we have.
Yeah.
And I'm not scared to like do it. Like, you know what I mean? And I've received a lot of positive feedbacks about it.
Yeah.
It was part of my, because I was a leader, and I think it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, to lead a group of people, I think. And dealing with your staff, I reckon, is the hardest thing. Customers are easy, you know, they're easy to please. But the staff is like the people that you deal with. To be able to send that message to your staff, this is how we do it, like for my food, and to cook it in this way was the hardest thing, you know, like simple things, like even if you have a recipe to cook adobo, like, because we used to do this pork belly dish, right? Adobo, Sister, but we used to cook it like separately from the sauce. So it's kind of different, because we used to sous vide and stuff like that. But even that simple sauce was like, it's so hard, because like, I don't know, like with training, with everything, that, you know, like it's one of those things that you really have to focus on, and making sure that the staff understand what you're trying to do, because there's no basis for them with Filipino food.
Yeah.
Like, because we used to do our scissors, we used to do a lot of Thai dishes, right? So I used to do a curry, yellow curry, and a lot of my chefs were Thai, so they can be like, all right, I know what that
Easy, yeah.
They have a basis in their head, but with Filipino food, they don't. So you really need to send that message, teach them properly how to do it, you know? And that's one of the hardest things, I reckon, for the staff. Like the customers are fine, like they love it. People love it. A lot of Lolas will come up to me and like, that's amazing, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah. Oh, good.
I think it's important to define the audience. I think that's something we forget a lot of. Like a couple of weeks ago, what's her name? Sola from Bon Appetit Mag. She posted her eggplant adobo, and everyone, you know, praised her. They're like, thank you for shining a light on Filipino cuisine. And it was a eggplant adobo, which you'd never find traditionally in the Philippines, right? But everyone was like, thank you for understanding it. She did explain that, you know, originally it's made by simmering pieces of pork with vinegar and stuff like that. And I think that's fantastic. And it really is, her audience was really happy about it. If I were to make a video of eggplant adobo on YouTube, even if I contextualize it saying, hey, it's usually made with pork, but I'm going to do it for fun with eggplant, I would get slammed online.
Really? Wow.
Because the audience is very different. Because they expect something. And what's even funnier is that audience, because it's a more general public audience. Most people, when you think adobo, people think soy sauce and vinegar. When people who've actually studied Filipino cuisine know that adobo is vinegar. That's it. And so if you did that, that's even like a bigger step. So what I'm saying is people, unfortunately, with Filipino food, a lot of people actually, we don't know our cuisine very well, which is why it's important to kind of have these conversations. Because people are so sure that adobo means bay leaf, vinegar, and soy sauce, when in reality, if in its purest form, is really just vinegar.
Vinegar. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's been the great thing about the entrepreneurs, in the sense that each of us come from diverse regions of the Philippines. We're not all from Luzon. Each of us, there's some from Visayas, there's others in Mindanao, and what they present to be their version of adobo or another Filipino cuisine has been an eye-opener for us. And so it's been good to safely be able to be educated in that and realize that what you grew up knowing in your home is not the only version of that floating around, and to be cognizant of and to actually be appreciative of them taking you along for their educational journey as well. So
yeah,
I know we're at the top of the hour, and we know that like everyone's got their things going on for the day, but we just wanted to close it out with a bit of a fun lightning round that the Des will go through, this and that, and just whatever comes in, the first thing in your head, just say it, and we'll see where your mind's at with some of these options.
PG, Ross, PG.
You ready?
Is it PG-13?
All right, you ready? Okay. Sinigang or kare-kare?
Kare-kare.
Kare-kare.
Actually, sinigang is more common, but if I had to choose, I'd choose kare-kare.
Kare-kare. Okay, nice. Champurrado or taho?
Taho.
Oh, can you guys say it? Can you do the taho thing?
Taho.
Oh,
There you go. That's the one. Toilet paper or tabo?
Toilet paper.
toilet paper.
Even COVID edition? No tabo?
Actually, there's a third answer there, which is the spray, which you guys don't have here.
What's this? The bidet?
Yeah.
You can have it
Oh,
here.
there's some. Yeah.
Portable spray, is that?
You can put it.
That's cool.
Okay.
But if you want to play, I reckon tabo's more romantic.
Just don't eat with your hands after, right?
Yeah. Okay. Camping or glamping?
Glamping.
Glamping. Nice. Okay.
I said camping, by the way.
Oh, you said camping. He says Ross. Of course, glamping. I
Clearly.
Camping's alright for the first night, and then the second night is glamping.
That's true. All right. Gin or wine?
Wine.
Wine.
Wine. Okay. Airbnb or hotel?
Airbnb.
Hotel.
And but in hotels, I've got a lot of memories there, man. But Airbnb.
I think we know this one. Beach or mountain?
Oh,
Mountain.
And beach. Okay. Yeah. Kamayan or fork and spoon?
Maya.
Kamayan.
Kamayan. Okay.
I eat soup with my hands. Like, it's strange.
What? How?
How?
No, you just use the bowl, but then the rest you use your hands. I get lazy.
Masterclass or YouTube?
YouTube.
Masterclass? What's masterclass?
Like, if you were to do a cooking like demo or something, would you do a masterclass or a YouTube video? Like, it's very.
Everyone's editing the YouTube, then a YouTube.
Well, you have to follow everyone's instructions and actually the portrait, like the landscape mode. So when it's actually still finessed, right?
Yep.
Last one, designer or custom made?
It depends on what it is.
Custom.
If it's like furniture and stuff like that, custom.
If it's clothes, clearly, look at him. He's a
Really,
walking
yeah, right. Designer.
Design is good,
it.
but let's have a balance.
A balance, yes, agree. Okay.
Well, thanks so much for spending the first part of your day with us on Saturday, on this weekend with us. We do really appreciate your time, and it's been an honour to sort of see how lockdown era has evolved for each of your lives in Melbourne. Hopefully, the next time we do all back to normal, whatever COVID normal may be. But on behalf of the entrepreneurs, we wish you health and happiness, and stay very hopeful for the path ahead. So thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks, Ross.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
And
you very
thanks,
much.
Thanks, guys.
I miss you, Ross.
You.
It's official. See, I said it publicly.
There you go.
Next time to catch up.
Love it.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Yeah.